Hello, welcome everyone to The Distraction here on Fightful.com. It is Thursday. We have a special guest. I am Jeremy Lambert, joined, as always, by Joseph Hulbert. Joe, how are you?
I'm good. I'm as good as can be, right? And we're going to obviously get into that over the next hour, I assume. Been a pretty wild week, Jeremy. It feels like we haven't spoke for about 8 years. A lot has happened. But again, we'll tackle that today, for better or worse, right? Hopefully we leave this with a little bit more insight than we end up.
Yes. And with us today, our special guest from Steel Chair, from Pro Wrestling Post. She did an excellent piece on Fightful this past weekend, looking at female wrestling fans. Georgia Madden. Georgia, we appreciate you joining us today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you for letting me be here and giving a different opinion.
Yeah, Joseph and I are not the people that I think our fan base or just really any fan should be wanting to listen to right now. Typically on our Thursday shows, we put 5 minutes on the clock. We discuss kind of wackiness, sometimes a serious side of pro wrestling. Not the time to do that. It's all bad right now. There's just not a lot of good stuff going on. So we have Georgia on to discuss the speaking out movement, to discuss the COVID stuff, because she's an important voice in the wrestling community, and you should listen to her and not us really every day, but particularly this past week and this certain topic. So Georgia, I'm going to kind of let you lead the discussion here of just, we've seen a lot of allegations over the past week from wrestlers from just about every company. As a female wrestling fan, like when you go to these shows, how comfortable are you typically? And now when they resume again, I mean, how comfortable do you think you'll be?
I think part of the problem is you don't feel comfortable. I personally don't. But when you voice that, a lot of people will say, well, you're whining or you're being you're overplaying something. But I mean, I've probably been to 2 local shows last year. I don't go to many. I don't like the atmosphere a lot of the time. And the last one I went to, and it's just, I mean, I was sitting next to a group of about 6 men, and I felt uncomfortable the whole time, and they did nothing. But that's what you're being brought into. You sit there and you just don't feel like you place. And whenever I go to a wrestling event, or I go not just actually to see wrestling, but when I go to actual events, you feel like everyone's watching you. You feel like you're the odd one out. And there is very much that culture of that. And because you're looked at like that, you expect something to happen. And that's not right. And that's not right on both parts, because we shouldn't feel like we're going to be attacked. We should be able to be free. And you need to comfort that on both sides.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot. I mean, that's kind of that opening point is why we need you on here, because that's just something we can't grasp, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense to me when you say it, but it's not something I think about, not something I consider. I wanted to get like your, obviously the speaking out movement, and it swept up all of our timelines, right? Like it's the leading story, and rightly so. I wanted to get kind of your instinctual reaction, and now that these things have kind of processed in your mind, but was it like a pure shock, or was it I don't want to say a sigh of relief, that seems like the wrong phrase, but almost like let's get these stories out there kind of deal? Or was it just pure shock? That's what I'm interested in.
The first one, I think, was Star. I think he was first. And I remember reading that thinking, that was a shock, because I'd seen him as like he's in the independent scene. I'd watched him on other shows, and I thought, I didn't know him very well as a wrestler, so
yeah.
But to hear someone come out just randomly was a shock. And then it was a lot of pain and heartache reading hers, and then seeing the negativity she got. And I think a lot of us thought, okay, that will be this one thing, this arse is going to be taken down, and then that's it, everyone's going to go on. And then the next day it got worse and worse. And I got to about 2 days in, and I just couldn't cope, so I turned off for a while. And I know a lot of female fans did. It's not even one promotion, it's just everyone. And it's like, these are people you followed for years, and you really support them. You buy the merch, you go see them, you stand in a queue for hours, and you're like in floods of tears meeting them, and then you just can't grasp that they did that. And then you can't grasp with how they deal with it after, because some of them apologies were atrocious. Like, didn't even put effort in. And it's, you can make mistakes, and you can be wrongly accused, and you can make mistakes, but at least own up to how someone is feeling. And you've obviously done something to make someone feel like that. So own up to that. Don't just push it off. And it's just, I know so many, I mean, before I came on, I was reading in a group for women fans about people have been putting up YouTube videos today, and they've been saying that they're just sort of done with wrestling. And wrestling has been in points where they felt suicidal, and they've had they've come out with really bad relationships, and now they're done. And I felt like that. I struggled to review wrestling this week. I've been really struggling to write because I just don't know why. It's a bit where, why do we care? Because we don't know. You watch someone and you think, is it going to be you next? Do I want to put this time in when you could be next? And I think that's a horrific feeling for us all. And that's not just female fans, but I think we have this mindset that we're the odd ones out of this community. And we have that mindset that we're going to be attacked and we're going to have problems. And this just reinforces that. And this really reinforces, why are we part of this community? Because not only are wrestlers doing horrific things, but there are a lot of fans who are not being very courteous. They're not listening. They're giving really negative stuff back. And we need to be a cohesive unit too. Because in a way, I understand what you mean by it's sort of a relief that these people will be found out and they can be removed. But if they get removed and there's a lot of fans who are still very toxic, it doesn't mean anything. Everyone has to change to make a difference.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, there was a point there that I can't kind of reiterate enough about. This isn't the time for any of our fans that do this on social media. I just want to stress, this is not the time to be like flying the flag of your favorite promotion. You know, there is no honest leader in this. This industry is rotten, and it's top to bottom. Okay, the industry leader is hiding stuff, and then the faces of the independent scene are at the front of this. This is just bad in every which way. So, yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to a lot of the stuff you were saying about, like, are these people worth my emotional investment? Right? I think that's saying that anyone watching this, if you don't feel that, I'm almost confused as to why you wouldn't get that part at least. But yeah, definitely from top to bottom, there is an issue here, and that's why, generally speaking, this stuff will kind of like stuff that's not on television. We'll kind of, we'll leave that to be discussed elsewhere. This is not the time for that. This all needs to be tackled now and discussed because it's important. It's very much important. But yeah, I'm with you 100%.
The one thing is, a lot of this hit the British wrestling community, and both of you are over there. I'm outnumbered today with accents. Like, is it really that bad? Oh, I've never been over there. I've been to American wrestling shows. I've never really felt uncomfortable. Do I find some American wrestling fans just kind of strange and whatnot? Like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable at just kind of concerts and stuff. But like, is it as bad as it just seems over there, to where everyone's going out to the pub every night and doing whatever? Like, I don't have the same relation. I guess it happens in America as well, but it seems like it's just really hitting the British community harder for some reason.
I mean, I'll have to pass. I'm not like the Brit Rest guy. I haven't been to enough of the shows. Like, I don't know. It certainly seems that way, right? It's hard for us to kind of sit and be like, no, it's fine here. It seems like there's a real problem. Certainly, that's been like the focus of the whole movement. So yeah.
See, I didn't feel like it was bad, but the two shows I went to, 3 of the guys who were accused were at both of them shows. Mm-hmm. And the promotion who ran them shows has also been accused. And that's the problem. You don't notice it and you don't think it's an issue, but there obviously is an issue, and there obviously is something that promotion must have knew, because they're things that they've been talked about that happened 6 years ago. So that promotion must have known something, and yet they continued to never address it, never have, and then bring other wrestlers in. And it's one of the, how much do you know? How much do you not know? And it makes you then question everything about that, and about especially the UK scene, because I never thought it was an issue. Obviously, there is issues that we just aren't really aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to kind of like, at some point, when these notes seem kind of, we will investigate, at some point you just roll your eyes, right? It's like, where do we draw the line between, okay, maybe one guy can hide some behaviour. This is like locker room culture level of the amount of people being involved in this. So, and I agree with you too, there's some of these cases are like, I don't want to call them like secrets that everyone talks about on social media, but there are some of these that are. They're things that people have discussed kind of like, not jokingly, but they reference it for years, and these people are in major promotions. So I'm with you, and it's very hard to trust. Equally, as we said, it's hard to look at a performer and go, okay, do I want to support this guy? But it's equally the same as like, do I want to support any promotion? They're all involved one way or another. If you trace it, closely enough, I'd imagine all of them are involved. So it's difficult. It's very disheartening, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not bad in America. I mean, Joey Ryan seems to be the worst of, not seems to be, he is. He's the worst of all this, and he should be in jail. And, Chikara just shut down as well amid allegations. I'm sure it's bad in America. Some of these people might be protected by the companies they work for now, and that's why women and even some men haven't spoken out against them, because we haven't heard a lot about the bigger companies, because they just have those protections. Like in the UK, the big companies are NXT UK and Progress, and it seems like both of those companies are just ravaged right now with just people who shouldn't be in wrestling or should be behind bars.
Yeah, we don't have a national company, right? NXT UK, they can claim to be whatever they want to be. They're not a national company that people generally know about here. It's just not a thing. So I do fear that, the power of a WWE or a AEW, maybe, I don't know, that is kind of putting people off from saying their story. That's my fear with the American scene, but obviously it's impossible to know that until further. But yeah, that is a factor for sure. Okay, I wanted to. I didn't want to leave that there because I didn't know where to. I know this is tough. I know it sucks. We were talking a little bit before we went on the air about. It's interesting to me when you mentioned about feeling uncomfortable, and I said to you before, how much stuff that takes place on air that fans like Jeremy and I just kind of accept as part of the show affects that level of discomfort. Because look, we all know wrestling history is it's rich with sexism and BS, and that's just that's what it is, unfortunately. But how much of that still exists that continues to drive a kind of wedge between male fans and female fans, in your mind anyway?
Talking about TV, I know we discussed it earlier, and you mentioned Jim Ross and some comments he made, and this is a really clear example of the divide. There is, he does say this, especially about first one, going into Double or Nothing, the first one with Riho. There were some comments about her, how she looks, and as a woman, I thought, do you need to say that? Does it have to be about how she looks, or could you tell me something about her, because I have no idea who she is? And then comments do, because they were a bit do you have to say it? Yeah. And that makes you feel. But if you publicly said that, there will be a lot of male fans and women fans who are it's not a problem. Stop making these big deals out of every little thing. One of them was Jake Roberts, when I wouldn't call it dry humped Brandy, but he sort of laid on Brandy. Yeah. The first time I saw it, it was a bit was that needed? And it was almost like a small trigger, but it's not needed. But then and that's fine, that was okay. The second time I saw it, it wasn't as bad. It was probably just more of a shock. He's a heel, that's what he does. It wasn't a big, humongous problem. But if you've been a victim of something, that could trigger you, and that could cause a problem. And I think you have to be aware of that. It was more the then reaction by fans from that that little picture that then took it and then turned it into a whole nother way of just, I mean, whenever I'm in a wrestling group, I don't like being in wrestling groups where they're majority male fans, because you get so many like, look at this wrestler, look at these pictures of her, let's talk about her in ridiculously degrading ways. And that was one of the things that happened with that Jake Robertson, was it was taken to be completely sexualized. And it wasn't AEW who did that, it was the fans who then took it and did that afterwards. And then you wonder why we don't want to be here in this community, because every group we're in, we see it constantly. And it's not always the stuff on TV that affects you, it's how fans then take it. And then they go on it and build on it. And that's just, it's not a nice, pleasant environment to be in when you can't even be in a WWE or AEW fan group, because every other post is going to be, here's a female wrestler, let's look at her like this.
Yeah, I thought the Jake Roberts thing, beyond just that visual, was an interesting dialogue that I mean, obviously a lot of the fans having it were not qualified to be discussing it, obviously, but it does open up that interesting thing with wrestling, and it's unique to wrestling. Is we all accept that wrestling is a television show, but there is something to be said for, like, we always discuss good heat and bad heat, right? Because I think Jake said some stuff in promos too about Brandy, right? And it was kind of like, at what point do we say, well, he's just a heel, he's trying to get emotion out of us, and we say that's not needed. We don't really need to go that way. There's easier ways to get heat in an empty building in Florida, right? Like, I don't know. I'm sure you see this argument like he's just a heel, but at some point you must think, okay, so where's the heat for you guys? Because I'm sitting here hearing this every week. It's like, it's a common thing we see it a lot with different groups that just using it for heel heat, but it's very unique to wrestling, that, right? We all accept it's a TV show, but we feel like there's a line they don't need to cross, and oftentimes, even to this day, wrestling shows still cross that line. I don't know.
The thing with Jim Ross is, and even Jake Roberts, is like, the defense of it is, Jim Ross's defense was, it's on the script. And that's what, kind of the defense for all this. Okay, Jake Roberts' promo, that's what he was scripted to say. Or he was bullet pointed to say. That's what he was scripted to do, or whatever. So then it just becomes a thing of, all right, so when does someone step in and be like, don't script this. Don't have this person say this. Because, like Joe was saying, how necessary is this to get your heat or whatever? And so many wrestlers wanted, I mean, I guess it started with Hulk Hogan, with that whole thing. It's like, you got to separate the real person from the character, right? That they're two different people. The person I am on screen is not the person that I am in real life. And we're coming to find out that some of these people, the person you are on screen is the person you are in real life. And that's the issue. But that is a thing that's just unique to wrestling is, okay, what you see on screen is not who I am in real life. I was scripted to do this. Don't take it so serious and whatnot. But, all right, you can say that, but then you can't really wonder why people are uncomfortable perhaps around you, or uncomfortable watching your product, even if it's television product, because you're doing these things. You're putting these things out there.
Yeah, it's I don't want to go away from the speaking out topic. I don't want to do that. But it is an interesting thing of, is wrestling actually escapism, or is it promotions try and mirror social issues? And because we see it on, I mean, I guess the biggest wrestling show right now is SmackDown, right? What part of the Jeff Hardy angle is escapism? That's another example, right? Like, where are we escaping there? But their argument would be, we're telling a story that could inspire. I mean, that's where, to me, I always find this difficult, this discussion, is because they can hide behind it's fiction and we're mirroring reality. But I thought this was supposed to be smiles on faces. I mean, I'm sure there's an easy way to get heat without making people have experienced stuff, often much worse than what that particular case, making them feel uncomfortable to watch the show. I don't know, that feels awful like outdated wrestling to me. I don't know what you think, Georgia, but that's just my take on it.
I think when we're talking about heel, one who I think of is MJF, who will offend everyone. Mm-hmm. He doesn't go out and he won't go, oh, you're a woman, so I'm going to offend you. Yeah. He'll offend everyone. And I think there's a difference there. And that's why a lot of people probably aren't as angry at people like MJF, because it's never just one person.
Yeah.
He's not going to find you because of your race or your gender or your sexual orientation or a disability. He's going to offend everyone. Like, you wear glasses, he'll offend you. He'll offend anyone. And I think that's probably a better way to be a heel than just to signal out one specific group and be like, I'm going to target you today.
Yeah.
Deal with it. And I mean, a lot of the times, if it offends you and I know you must feel the same if you're of a different race or you're a different sexual orientation. I'm a woman who happens to be white, so I'm talking from a woman's point of view.
Mm.
Like, I didn't mind when Jake did the whole branding, the words. The words didn't bother me.
Okay.
But maybe that's because I feel like if it bothered me, I was then going to get more stuff back at me.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the problem. Like, especially within journalism, I don't like to give an opinion because I know I'm going to get it back. And if I'm fine with a review because I feel like I'm protected on a site and I can just turn the comments off. But if I tweet something, I'm going to get it back. And it's not going to be, let's have a discussion about why we think something different about a wrestler or wrestling a promo. It's going to be why you're wrong, and I'm going to prove to you're wrong, but I'm going to do it in a degrading way. And I think that's the problem. Sometimes I feel like it offends me, but I can't be offended because if I am, I'm then going to had a go at because of that. And I mean, like, the Jeff storyline, like you just to touch on that you said about how, we're doing it to help recovery could be their excuse. Well, what you're showing is if you want to come out as an alcoholic, you're going to be demeaned and you're going to be attacked by people. So why people would then go, oh, I'm going to come out into recovery, it doesn't relate to that story. You can't use that excuse. You want to be real, then you have to actually speak to people from that community and work out what would be helpful. And I mean, we touched it on my interview about the LGBTQ. If you want to have a lesbian storyline, have actual lesbians or at least people in that community help you. Don't have two known straight women pretend to be lesbians. It doesn't work.
Well, they tried that with Sonya Deville, and they're like, no, we're going to give this to Liv Morgan and Lana instead. The speaking out movement, it's not been good to see, but the strength has been good to see because like you mentioned, like you're afraid to just like give an opinion of, all right, I don't like this wrestler, something simple like that, because someone might attack you and be like, well, you're wrong. I'm AEW, so you're wrong for not liking this particular AEW wrestler. And I'm at like, you even see that with the women who have spoken out and who have these allegations out there. It's like, you accuse a wrestler of doing something, and then that wrestler's fan base just attacks you, like, he could never do this. Nope, you're wrong. Like, I don't know what you say. Like, he had this great match that night against so-and-so. There's no way he was out after the bar, like, groping you after that. It's like, no, like, this is why so many people are afraid to speak out, because they're just going to get attacked by these public figures, their fan base, who just believes all these people are saints. And, like, the speaking out movement is the highest scale of that. But this is something that just goes down all the way through wrestling. And women certainly get it worse because, unfortunately, that it's just kind of how it's been. Like, women's voices are not as strong in just about every single community, and they're looked down upon. And so if they say something, men have to come with our testosterone and mansplain everything to you of like, no, this is what's real. You're missing this point. And like, I can't imagine feeling uncomfortable just putting out an opinion of, hey, didn't really like that Jungle Boy match, and then just getting attacked by a bunch of people for disliking a Jungle Boy match.
Yeah.
I mean
that sucks. Kara.
I think this comes back to wrestling, and I'm not saying other sports at home. I've been involved in ice hockey my whole life, and there were so many problems there as well. It's probably all sports, but wrestling's the one where you can use the excuse of, I'm not that person, it's a character, so don't hold me accountable. Whereas if you had someone in the NHL who tweeted something, they're probably going to get a suspension, they're going to get some sort of fine. A wrestler can say, I was just in character. That was me being a character. I didn't mean to offend. It was a character. And of course, we don't want heels to go. You want that. But there's a point where you've got to say you're not a character when you cross a line. There's a line and it's firmly set. And if you're going to cross it, you can't use that excuse. And it's just, I think also the problem is, I understand why some fans want to not believe it. You might be a very young kid looking up to a wrestler and just they're your everything, and it's almost like you're being cheated because you bought into that. You bought into this person and you've supported them your whole life and you've defended them, and then you find out they're not who you thought they were. And I understand that upset and that hurt, because you've sort of in the same way been hurt because you trusted them.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't then give you the right to, someone who's being so strong, attack them. You should be understanding that they're hurt and you're hurting for a whole different reason. But this is, the community needs to sort of hurt together and then fix the problem and then heal. It can't be, let's turn it into a more of an argument and a fight. And I mean, you have to prove an accusation, but don't prove it on Twitter. Go to an authority, go to an authority and prove it. But you don't have to show me proof on some 20-year-old girl who's took years on pain to speak up, and we'll prove it to us. She doesn't have to prove it to six people on Twitter. She has to prove it to a proper authority so that person can be convicted, not to anyone. You don't have that right to know every detail of her life because she's come out and she maybe gave a vague statement. You don't have to know every detail that hurts her. Because she's just going to get attacked anyway. Whatever she says, she'll be attacked for. So let her do that the proper way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one part of this where it's like, listen, don't investigate. Like, it's not your job as someone that likes the wrestler being accused is not to, like, have a look at the evidence at hand. There is nothing you'll gain from that. You're just making it harder for victims to speak out, basically. And, like, look, if you truly believe that your favourite wrestler is in the right here, that will be proven by someone way above you on Twitter replying to the person accusing them, right? I mean, I don't want to, in fear of oversimplifying it, like, just don't do that. There's no, and the one thing too was, you said, Jeremy, you was like, there's, the scale, this is the extreme of it, right? Definitely do not do that. But it also speaks to what you were saying. I mean, that's so sad to me, what you said about, like, being fearful of sharing an opinion because you know what the reply is going to be. Guys, we don't have to tell people they shouldn't be offended by something or they shouldn't feel uncomfortable about saying. That's just ridiculous to me, right? Like, now there's things that happen on wrestling shows that probably have no effect on me that I'm sure would make you feel uncomfortable. It's not my job to tell you you should also be fine with it, right? That's the whole point of this. We have different perspectives. But, I mean, if there's one thing that, if you just have a Twitter account, you should be able to relate to this, okay? If I get in an argument with someone on social media, I am, like, on edge, refreshing my mentions. Imagine the bravery it takes. Honestly, I don't even want to make light of it, but that's me when I tweet an argument with someone about wrestling. Imagine what the bravery it takes to post your story, to tell your truth. Like, I can't imagine what it's like looking at your phone when you've done that and waiting to see the response. And we know how we work, right? It's like, if you get 10 positive comments, that one negative one will stand out. Do not be that negative comment when it comes to something this serious. It doesn't belong. And obviously, look, our reach here is minimal, but I can't fathom why anyone would feel the need to be like, okay, now it's time for me to be policeman on this and, like, look into the claims. No, that's not your job. Just listen, make a note of it, and it will play out as it should.
The invalidation of feelings is it's widespread across all communities, but when someone speaks out and like you said, you don't have to investigate. That's not like if you don't believe the victim, okay, you don't have to attack the victim, and you don't have to say anything really. Like you're not getting paid by the tweet. You don't have to say anything if you don't believe the victim. You can just be just what they went through, what they're going through, that's their experience. No one, especially something this critical, should invalidate that experience. And again, this happens across everywhere. We're in the wrestling bubble, so to speak here, but the invalidation of feelings is just something I can't always get behind, because who am I to tell you how you felt on that night? And Georgia, you mentioned these apologies, and all of them suck. Like every
Yeah.
single one of them are god awful. Sasha Banks had the best one, and Sasha Banks has nothing to apologize for. She, that was the best one. Zach Gibson explaining the Hitler game what was fine, but he wasn't really accused of anything. All these other ones, they're just all terrible. A lot of them are invalidating feelings. A lot of them are like not even apologizing for what happened. It's a lot of excuses. It's a lot of I did this, I did that. They're just sorry. This topic.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's all bad, and just listen to the victim if you've been accused of something. Look, it's very tough to craft a good apology when you've been accused of the stuff that's been out there. But, just say, I'm sorry, say, I hurt you, and move on. And actually do something to better yourself. I'm tired of these wrestlers be like, I've been in therapy for this many years. I've been working. Like, no, your apology says you haven't done any of that shit, because I've been to therapy for plenty of years. The first year, I threw therapy away. I didn't take it serious. It didn't do anything for me because I wasn't willing to put in the work. If you go to therapy, it doesn't just mean you talk about your feelings and you listen to what your therapist says. Like, you actually have to work on yourself in therapy and outside of therapy every single day. If you don't do that, you don't get anything out of therapy. So these wrestlers trying to say they're going to therapy and doing this stuff, like, it's proof that you might go, but there's also proof that you're not doing anything once you leave that office and you spill your feelings out there. I'm sick of all of it. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've got nothing to add to that. I don't know about you, Georgia. I said to you before, I really didn't want to make this show. Jeremy and I talked about how much it sucks to be us. Look, it's nothing for us, by comparison. When you say things like it's uncomfortable to be at shows, like, that's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. But I don't know. I guess we have to have these conversations, right? Like, it sucks even worse if you have to just kind of keep that feeling to yourself. That's awful. But I was wondering if, you said earlier that this week covering the shows has been harder, right? Because you're doubting how much of an effect does the apology and the follow-up to that apology, how much of an impact do you think that will have on your enjoyment? So, for example, I mean, I'll use Sammy as an example because it's not an allegation. It's like an actual situation of him saying something. And his handling of it, for example, when he returns to AEW Dynamite, which I assume will happen, I don't know, does his handling of it make it easier for you to accept him better as part of the show? Or is the action still the action to you? I'm interested in that part, basically.
Just quickly jumping back to the apology bit.
Yep.
I mean, I've been a victim of sexual assault, like most women have. And I think the big thing you want in an apology is to be acknowledged. And you can deny that you don't agree with what's being accused, but acknowledge that someone said that. Acknowledge that someone feels that way. And some of them have tried and failed miserably because it then becomes me. But just, you feel this way, and I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't think I did anything wrong, but I'm listening to you, and I will do whatever I need to do to help you. Don't become, when I was 12, I did this because I got this thing, or I once got a comment in my DMs, and that was awful, because we live it every day as women. I mean, we really do. The amount of DMs and things like that you get is ridiculous. We live that. We live the comments. We live the going to a show and getting looked at or getting comments. And it's not, and this is the thing, it's not like when people go, oh, so women will never be asked out again. That's not an issue. It's not you having a consensual conversation with someone at a bar and saying, hey, do you want to go back to mine, or do you want to go out somewhere? It's the sexualized comments that we are not. It's not a hello, can we have a conversation? It's a hello, you stand there while I tell you everything I think about you, and then you reciprocate. And that's not, and this about the opinion thing is, we discussed it in my interview about women aren't really allowed an opinion a lot of the time. Like, if you go to a show wearing a shirt, you get quizzed. And it's, well, tell me about the wrestler on this day, 10 years ago, when he had this match in the Indies from a different country. And it's like, I can like some, I mean, I've been writing for about 4 months. I'm only just coming into the bubble of New Japan. I can say I like Okada and not know 99% of things Okada's ever done, because I don't. I haven't got that many hours in the day to sit and research everything Okada's ever done. But I can say, I actually quite enjoy Okada's recent run in New Japan without getting, well, let's ask you 50 questions.
Yeah.
That's that. And that's a huge, and that's why, the Googling. When you say something and then someone straight away gets a phone out and they Google and go, no, you're wrong. He lost in 30 seconds, not 35 seconds. And it's like, you can't be valid, because you have to have, let me double check everything you've said. And then if you're right, they sort of just go, right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me about this then. And then jumping back to what you just asked about Sammy, for example. Sammy is such a different situation.
Yeah.
Because I'm training to be an engineer. I've worked in motorsport for most of my young life, and the culture and the attitudes a lot of young men have atrocious. And it's sort of learned that you say things about women, and I mean, especially in the UK, like builders, because those two examples, all the catcalling and that's sort of the culture. So it's, do you blame an individual person for being part of that culture, or do you blame the culture and how they've learned that? And I have that crisis with Sammy, because do I blame him, which I do, but do I blame the fact that he was taught that was okay? And because he must have learned that from being in locker rooms and from other wrestlers and that culture. So do we then just say this one person, or do we say he needs to be punished? He's been punished. He did one, but he's going to be punished. But we should punish everyone who taught him that culture. And I don't mind Sammy coming back. I think they handled it well. We're going to donate to a charity. I feel they handled that well. If he had done anything physical, and if anyone came out saying that, he should be done. Absolutely. Like Joe Ryan, he should be done. But, he wasn't young, but he made a comment, and does he deserve to have everything ruined from a comment if he's truly, that was, I think, 6 years ago? Don't quote me. Or
4 years, yeah.
I'm a 6, I'm a 4, it's just, but I mean, like 4 years ago, if he had an open conversation with Sasha is not okay, but she can see some forgiveness from him.
Yeah.
I think it's very differently. If he'd come out and it was it, but I guess that, and also use that as, if he uses that as a good platform, he can go out and be more active. He can be like, I'm going to go to indie wrestling, and I'm going to go to retro wrestling that you don't say. There could be some good that comes out of that could make him as a person realise that there is a bigger problem, and he can help stop that problem.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that I mentioned him, because obviously, as I said, like, that's a kind of cut and dry situation, right? I imagine a lot of this is going to drag on and be, statement after statement. But I'm glad you kind of made that, you drew that line there, because generally speaking, with this stuff, I'll signal boost happily. I try to avoid kind of being performative on social media. It's not my story. I love to share other people's stories, but I was very with the Sammy thing. I was very hesitant to make it seem less of a serious situation than it was. I didn't want to do that, but I am glad you said that, because there were times where, when I would briefly go on social media, that was the story that was getting the most discussion. And look, I'm not here to comment on whether that's right or wrong. All I'm saying is while we may not be able to say a ton of these guys are guilty, like a Joey Ryan is a different case than Sammy. And we're allowed to say that without it being, without it softening what Sammy did and making it seem better, right? I think is guess what I'm trying to get at. But, I just think it's interesting, like the apology thing is, I've never read so many apologies in all my life. The last week has just been a whole feed of apologies, right? Note section screenshots. I don't know. I often wonder the impact of them. I think as soon as you go that route with it, people immediately are just kind of like, oh, here we go again. Like, it seems so formal a lot of the time too. So it's interesting to me. It is. I wonder the long-term effects of this on fans like yourself, even like us, like just invested. That's the thing that concerns me about it. Like, it's just, I don't know where we go from here, I guess. I hate to be negative, but I don't.
Yeah, Georgia, how do you feel about that? You mentioned you're in group chats with a lot of different wrestling fans and female friends and stuff. The only wrestling person I talk to is Joseph, but
Yeah,
when shows resume and everything, like, how do you feel about going to shows and even just sticking around through this? And how do other females that you've talked to, like, what is their temperature on all of this as well?
There's a conflict of, I honestly was so close to, I'm done now. I'm finished. I think I just now thought the Fightful came out just sort of in the middle. So I did Tuesday, and then my article came out on the weekend. I mean, I had wrote to the people I write for and said that I'm not doing anything right now. Your audio's
a little choppy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like cut you off or anything. I just wanted to make sure everyone can hear the point.
The problem of having a cheap mic. Is that okay?
I mean, it's kind of just in and out. But you were mentioning that you did the article for Fightful over the weekend and then Tuesday, and then it was just, it was a little choppy.
Yeah. Sorry. I think the article came out on the Saturday, or something like that.
I believe it was Saturday.
And I was sort of Saturday. It's the time zone. It's the absolute. It's just the night for me is then daytime for you, and I'm like, but I'd written to a lot of people I wrote for, and I'd said, I'm done. I don't want to just find covers because I'm not reviewing, I'm not writing. And I'd come off Twitter, and then I got we're going to publish it. And I didn't know if they were going to publish it because I thought it could not be. It could be the wrong time. And then it got such an amazing response, and it was there was women who came out and was talking about their experiences at events because they had read mine and they'd read these 10 other women who had shared that, and it sort of gave me faith. It was a bit like, oh, so there are people who want to listen. And there was a lot of male fans who had come out and said, I didn't know this, but hearing this has made me change my mind. And that was a big deal. And I think this could be turned into something positive because we could have a lot more acceptance. And like I touched on Sammy it would be amazing if he could go to other wrestling schools and teach it. And I think we need that. I think we need names in wrestling to say we're going to start going to younger guys and teaching them that this isn't right. And we should have that with fans. And I think there was one thing a lot of people said, does Chris Jericho come out and break character and discuss it? And I don't particularly want him to, but I want AEW to say something.
Yeah.
And also they have the platform of heels now, the female group.
Yeah.
You could do something with this. And WWE can do something with this. And everyone can do something. There could be let's have an open conversation and let's hear these fans and really hear women. Not just fans, but wrestlers. Let's hear how they feel. And to do that, everyone else has to be quiet for a minute and just really listen to that. And then don't just listen and pawn it off. And this was, like you were saying about a lot of the groups we were discussing what should heels do. And people said, well, I don't want heels to mention if they're just going to talk at us. Don't talk at us. Actually ask us. And that's what WWE, AEW, they should all do. They should actually ask us and then listen and then change it. Don't just tell us what we should be feeling and, oh, we feel sorry for you, but we're not.
The audio is still it was good, and then right there
and just but I mean, we're never going to change social media at all. Twitter will always be the ultimate demon of us all, but just listen is really the point.
I think we got the point. Was great. We just lost the connection. It's fine. the last thing I want to do today, trust me, especially after the recent news, is glorify WWE. I mean, it's not what I want to do, but I do have to ask this question because I think it's interesting. How impactful do you think, in the last few years, when people think it's branding or they think it's a real movement, the WWE has treated the women better, right? And Jeremy and I were speaking after WrestleMania, we were saying it was amazing to us, like the best two matches to us were women's matches on night one and night two, or they opened the show, was I think the point. Do you think that's impacted the fan base and made them a little bit, I don't say more comfortable after what's come out in the last week, but I don't know, has it changed anything, do you think, with the fan base, that they are at least on the industry leaders show, at least, for all of their flaws, they do treat women better than they did, I guess?
I think WWE's problem is it was a bit little too late.
Yeah.
At one point. And we touched again on my interview about the sort of their evolution. Their evolution came a long time after TNA had an evolution.
Yep.
And that came a long time before other companies had evolution. And they wanted to credit that. And we had discussed how Gail Kim was one of the people who had really came out before that and said, no, I'm not going to do certain things. And I think there's just still a lot of problems there. And there's still a lot of hurt, because I'm lucky that I sort of grew up after Attitude.
Yeah.
But I've watched back a lot of Attitude, and some of the stuff that they can get away with is insane. And that's still clips that they show. They still show them clips. And if you want to go onto any YouTube site and you want to look at WWE's worst moments, the top 5, you're going to see Trish barking like a dog, and you're going to see them things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. We can still see that. We can still see that problem. And it's not you fixing it. It's like you're trying to cover up that you did it. But we can see you did it. It doesn't help when you push the same 4 or 6 women. And they're all, a lot of them are a cookie cutter shape. NXT doesn't have that problem. NXT is something different. But when you look at Raw and SmackDown, there's a cookie cutter shape of what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. And you don't make a lot of female fans feel inclusive when your lesbian character isn't allowed to really... she's allowed to wear a flag, but she's not allowed to have the storyline she wanted to have. You gave that to someone else. And when you just don't represent everyone.
Yeah.
And that's you need to represent us all for us to be listening more and to show us that. And they could really use a platform. I'm not as up to with WWE. I refuse to pay the amount that BT will make you pay. So it's not. I watch it and I watch the pay-per-views, but I'm not actively there.
Okay.
But when I watch it, some of the storylines are they're flat. They're very flat compared to some of the ones that male wrestlers get. And it's not like they're on the same platform. And it seems like it's the same storylines for 8 months, and we don't really get much new. We just get the same one that's being recycled again and again. And they need to be... A good point that someone made in my interview was that we need to see more... Let's see storylines with the actual, the female refs and the female, the hosts who do the interviews. Let's actually see them involved more than just standing there holding a mic to someone's face.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up on that. I thought it was very interesting. Do you think it was more damaging the way that they celebrated their own progression? The way it was it wasn't just we're going to now treat women's wrestling importance. It was look at how great we are that in 2016 we have decided to do this. Was that worse? I assume it was, right?
I think that made us all realise the bad things before.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't oh, look, they do something great. It's let's look back and see all the things they didn't do great. And I think that was they were very arrogant about we're the best. And there was taglines of we're the first major company to really allow women to be allowed to be wrestlers. And it was, no, actually, there's many who were doing it before. And Gail Kim was very actively vocal about that, saying that's hilarious because we were doing it 6 years ago. And I'm not saying TNA didn't have some atrocious, really sexist storylines, but, they were allowing some. And now Impact, for example, you've got, when I say about cookie cutter characters, you've got Rosemary, Sue Young, Jessica Abbott. You look at them and you see more of a variety of women. It doesn't have to be you're skinny or you can be weird and you can be creepy, and that works. And we don't see much of that within Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, it's all, like in wrestling history, right? There is like each character can be put in a box generally, right? And in wrestling, we have these wacky characters. We have to, oftentimes, like now that you say that, I see your point. Oftentimes in women's wrestling, that range is a lot shorter, especially in WWE. So no, that makes sense. One other thing about that is it doesn't help that you said Attitude Era. I mean, that is they glorify that more than anything. And every time they glorify it, they feature the stuff with women. So like they're not like ashamed of it. They happily talk about how great they adjusted to the. So I can understand how that kind of almost is insulting to you when it's like they go on major platforms and celebrate the fact that they treat women like actual wrestlers. In 2016, this started, I guess, right? Like it's insane that we're even. I guess it's sad that I even see it as progression from where I'm seeing. Like, that's sad, right? Like, I'm like, man, it's great that the women are on the show a lot, and they are. But you're right, this shouldn't be progression in 2020. This should have been the way it's been for decades at this point.
We shouldn't be happy that we're not sandwich breaks anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like we're not allowed to ask for more.
Exactly,
like, we've given you a beer, just be happy with that.
Yeah, I get you, yeah.
That's your level.
Yeah, we shouldn't be, like, congratulating them, is the point, right? Like, we shouldn't be like, okay, bravo on that. The women now have good wrestling matches. No, they could have been having these matches all along. You didn't allow them to. So I thought that was interesting because, look, for better or worse, I'm sure we all have more negative takes on WWE than positive at this point for a range of reasons that don't need to be discussed here. But, you know, they are the standard. And they probably shouldn't be, but they just are by default, right? To most people, that is wrestling. And it does explain a lot. When, I don't want to blame them for all this. It's certainly not, the main culprit, but it does explain a lot when we have to have these conversations about them, the leader of the whole industry. It's just interesting to me.
With WWE, I mean, this is what I don't like to say this, but this is what they do. They will gladly glorify, like Titus O'Neil is a good example. It's like, look at all this great stuff Titus O'Neil does. It's like, put him on your television show then. Yeah. They do the same thing with Sonya as well. It's like, oh, look at Sonya speaking out with the LGBTQ community and all this stuff. It's like, cool, like give her some of that platform on your television show instead of having her come off as like this jealous bitch of Mandy Rose and stuff. Like, they'll gladly glorify all this stuff on social media, and then when more people are watching on television, it's like, yeah, this is who this person is. But I guess that's, again, separate the character from the actual person and whatnot. Yeah, they shouldn't. The women's, you mentioned, Joe, they could have had these matches a long time ago. Alexa Bliss in an interview was saying, like, when she first got to NXT, they wouldn't let her practice certain moves. And she got there, 2015? You know your Alexa Bliss history better than I do. But she got there in like 2015 or something, and they didn't let her do certain moves because they were just like, yeah, you're never going to do this anyway. This is 2015.
Yes, and worse than that, she was like, I don't know if I can talk about this. I may get in trouble. Yeah. What is going on? What sort of promotion are they running over there? Like, I don't know. It's insane that they actually... Again, I didn't want to make this a WWE bashing thing. This is my fault. Like, don't get mad at Georgia or Jeremy. This is my fault. But it is amazing to me, like, one of their main female talents is talking about the fact that when she signed, she couldn't learn she wasn't required to learn all the moves because it was supposed to be like a cat fight. I think was her words, right? It was supposed to be like that is an interesting part of it is, do you say, I know you said you didn't watch the TV, so I'm sure it's like easier for you to kind of get through it than it is for us. Do you sense a difference in how they write, like, the dynamics? So let's take Sasha Bailey or Sonya and Mandy is probably the best example. Do you think they write those relationships differently because they're women? I'm interested to know.
I mean, one point on Sonya, like going back to the line, it's like, if it benefits us, we'll share it, and we give you the flag. You know, you can wear the flag, so that should be your level. You shouldn't be asking for more because we're giving you that, and I think that's what it's like a lot with the storylines as well. We're giving you something, so just stop complaining. Yeah. And I think I'm trying to think of a storyline I particularly love within the women's division within WWE. I'm trying to think of something. I mean, how long has the Sasha and Bailey thing going now?
12 years, I think is the exact count on that.
They're
12
saving
years,
it for
but-
SummerSlam, okay?
Look, if it makes you feel any better, you're searching for a storyline you like in the women's division. I've been searching for a storyline I like in general for years.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel better. You know, it's at least they're inclusive in that regard, right? Bad creative for all. So this has now just become WWE bashing. My bad. Let's go back to serious topics. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, we can talk about COVID. WWE's handled that extremely well.
Oh, great. Yeah, great. Much better. I mean, that is the one where, as much as I was saying earlier, and I stick by it, if you're like me and your biggest impact on this is like, oh man, I like some of these wrestlers. Look, we're not the story here. With that being said, I totally get why COVID is just making all of us be like, I don't want to watch this stuff. It's insane, right? They're in our face just saying they don't care about the talent that we watch every week. It's just crazy, mate.
Do you have any thoughts on COVID and just how it's all been handled, Georgia?
It's when we first were right at the beginning, and it was we might not do shows. I'm ashamed to say I was probably one of the fans that was like, please continue and do it well, because it has, and I can see a point where people say, well, it has brought something. Because it has brought something to fans who may be struggling mentally with depression and having issues, and it is that little light, like you wait for that day of the week because you want to watch it, and I get that, but you have to make everyone safe and batch tape it. If you want to do a show, batch tape it.
Yes.
Just batch tape 10 or 12. No one's going to care. Even if it's not a full show, you want to give us just a half an hour, here's a couple of good matches, throw it on. Well, people are fine with that. It's something. But now you're at the point where you want to put people at risk, and you don't want to just put them, you want to put their families at risk. And that's just not okay. And I don't want to bash WWE, but it seems they handled this a lot worse. I didn't even know they weren't testing until they had admitted they weren't testing. And it's, how hard is it to do that? You're the company with the most money, and you couldn't pay for some tests to be done, and then it's the test's fault that they came back positive. Well, yeah, that's what the test is meant to do. You're positive, you're negative. That don't blame the actual test.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, AEW have held it better. Do they do shows? Do they not? I would have gone back. I would have kept batch taping. I don't know why they particularly stopped and then started doing the 1 week on, 1 week off, because I can't even remember what one is live and what isn't anymore. I don't think many people can. Just batch tape a few, then do a pay-per-view, then batch tape. You don't need to be trying to give us live, because it really makes not much difference. There's no crowd. We don't see anything different. We're still seeing that. Don't bother with it. It's just, there's no point of it. And I guess I have to commend AEW on the testing, and I have to commend them on the fact they've used a lot of indie talent who has no jobs. But they are still doing the week on, week off. Don't do the week off. Just batch tape. Just really, and I can't stress that enough. You want to put a show on, and I get that, batch tape it. And then WWE needs to test. They just need to test like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, I see people talk about this like there's only one way to do it, right? Like, they have to come in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You got to do it. Like, they could have sat and wrote 10 weeks television, and they could have taped it as such that there was only ever 2 performers in the building at once, right? This is the things you could do. I'm so glad you said that, because it's almost like people think the only way these promotions are doing it, that's the only way it could be. That you can't actually plan this stuff out and get months in the can. But it's tough. I mean, I'm totally, like, it's 100% the deal about, can I invest in these people? But the worst part is the ones that you're confident you can invest in are currently performing without COVID testing in an empty, like, PC that's got family and friends in there. Jeremy, what is going on here, Jeremy? I mean, you may be closer. Jeremy is the news beat man. Is going to have to defend this to me, but I don't understand what's going on. Okay, I don't get it.
Jeremy is exhausted from all of this. Like, Joseph and I have made it very clear way back in March that we thought all of these shows should have been shut down. I do agree with Georgia. I even agree with the smiles on faces stuff, in that, like, it is an escape. Do I think it's the best escape? No. Like, people see these empty arena shows, and it's sometimes just a reminder of, like, Oh yeah, there's no fans there. Like, this isn't fun to watch, and I think that's a reason why like ratings have gone down and stuff, because all right, people have free time. Everyone's like, oh, it's live sports. There's no live sports. Everybody's gonna be watching WWE. It's like, no, people are gonna watch like movies and stuff they haven't seen in forever. Like, that's what they want to watch. They don't want to watch this empty arena wrestling stuff. But if you're gonna do it, there's smart ways to actually do it. Georgia mentioned batch taping. Yes, tape a bunch of episodes for 1 week and then just have everybody quarantined for the rest of the month. Like that, it seems simple. The easiest thing, test people. Like, how difficult. Triple H talks about his sword-piercing spray, and like, oh, we took their temperatures, and they keep saying, oh yeah, we staggered them coming in, and then you see all the photos, like everybody's hanging out backstage and stuff. Like, you're probably staggering anybody.
Can I just say, Jeremy, if you watch this show and you still like wait for the day that Hunter Hearst Helmsley is in charge of that promotion, I have no idea. I have no idea how your brain works. I don't. At this point, look, I'm all for optimism. But you're doomed if you're waiting on him taking over. This gets no better as far as sort of morality. It's getting no better, I can promise you. It's just not.
I don't know why they haven't been testing, and yet now they test, and hey, wouldn't you know it, there's a bunch of cases. Like, it's the Trump theory of, if we test, of course we're going to find more people, so we're not going to test. Yeah. It's like, I don't get it. I've reached a breaking point with all of that, and it's dumb. Just shut the shows down. Shut it all down. And this is not, and people want to attack everybody, and this is, back to what we discussed earlier of like getting attacked for an opinion or making this some type of brand war type thing and stuff. Like, just because you say something about WWE doesn't mean you agree with what AEW is doing, and vice versa. Like, it's all bad. Shut it all down and just completely knock it all off.
Yeah, this has been a very cheerful episode, guys. Right? We all seem really ready to go and cover the world of professional wrestling once this is done. Look, we have to. I said to Jerry, I was like, we have to. It'd be very nice of us to come on here and be like, hey, Dynamite was good. It's not the week for that, right? Like, we have to face this stuff. The COVID deal is just, I mean, it's swallowing us all up. But the speaking out movement is such a difficult one, and I'm glad we spoke about it here, because I don't want to make it like I think I said earlier to you, right? Like, is it a relief? Like, I don't know how to frame it, but I guess my point is, at least it's better this stuff be discussed, right? Because otherwise, just more victims while everyone kind of turns their back to it, and that's not what we need. But man, we've covered a real many of great topics today, right? It's been great fun.
Georgia, any last words on speaking out COVID? Do you want to talk about something positive? Hey, we love actually being positive about wrestling on this show. Any last words on anything? If you want to talk positivity, that's great as well.
One last point on the COVID. If you don't want to batch tape and you want to do something, do an NWA Carneyland. Just throw on a bunch of wrestlers doing absolutely random stuff for 20 minutes. That works as well, It does something if you really want to. How crazy is it that we're like 3-4 months and we're still saying test people? It's ridiculous. Like, you still haven't worked that out. Positivity. What positive stuff is there?
If you can't, if you have nothing, well, I have nothing either. So.
No, I mean, Yuji Nagata looked pretty good in the New Japan Cup. That's all I've got. Sorry, guys. That's all I've got. I don't know. I hope that anyone who's watching this show, look, I'm aware our audience is not like, this is not the usual fare here, right? There's a lot of silliness in the usual, but this is what has to happen. It isn't our job to be a distraction from all problems when they're this close to home, and the whole industry is, we have to talk about it. And I'm glad we did, and I think hopefully I learned some stuff. I hope everyone else did. I don't, positivity is not this week's show, unfortunately.
Kofi Kingston had a great AJ Styles impression.
There you go. Kofi Kingston seems good. Kofi Kingston seems like someone we can be like, okay, he's good, right? We can do that?
I hope so. I really hope so.
That could be terrible last words from me. Anyway, yeah.
Georgia, we appreciate you joining us today. Where can everybody find you at on social media and your writing?
Mainly Twitter. It's at gmadden still underscore 19. Hopefully, I'm going to have some more projects coming up. I'm doing something. I'm interning at the AWIW, which is an association of women in wrestling, focusing on just trying to get women into journalism. And there is also there is some developments maybe coming on that front, but we'll see. We'll see how the community fares and.
I hope everything does work out with the association because it is a good thing what they're doing. We need more women covering sports just all across, whether it's wrestling, basketball, hockey, anything. More voices are a good thing. I don't know why people want to try to marginalize any voice, like any voice that can form a respectful opinion. I should say some voices shouldn't be heard. Sorry, everyone knows what I'm talking about, but for the most part, more voices should come together and discuss these things, but certainly more diverse opinions than two white dudes, says a white dude who does a podcast with another white guy. Georgia, again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome back anytime. Hopefully wrestling survives this and we do have positive topics to come on and talk about, please join us again and we can talk good about wrestling and not everything we unfortunately had to talk about today. Joseph, everyone can follow. Are you tweeting again? Are you still retired?
It's a long story.
Okay.
I'm like the Undertaker in like 2018.
Okay.
And big topics like my Saudi Arabia deal. Like I'll just come back out for those. I'll send a tweet, get out. I get out very quickly though. So follow me, but don't expect to talk to me. I have no interest in such a thing. I'll tweet my opinion. Please like, retweet. Never talk to me again. Thank you.
You can follow me at Jeremy Lambert 88. Check out Fightful.com, FightfulSelect.com. We have some NWA news on there today. I had a note about Ricky Starks. I'm a scoopster now, Joseph. Joseph broke the Alexa Bliss story this past week.
And I didn't get credit for it. I did not get credit. Jeremy, you did not give me enough credit for that story. I want you to know that. I broke that story.
How dare you?
I'm a scoopster now. You know this? I'm a big deal.
How dare you?
You better change the description under my name. Better have changed, by the way. I'll never know because I never watched the show. But you better say scoopster under there.
How dare you that I did not give you enough credit? That's just blasphemy on here. Sign up to Fightful Select. Check out Georgia's piece on Fightful that she did over the weekend, talking to female wrestling fans. I'm glad you got a lot of good feedback on that because it was an excellent piece, and I know the timing may not have seemed great, but I think the timing was actually very good considering the subject of the piece. And hopefully, you do more stuff with Fightful because I think you do great work with that. So, everyone, we will be back on Saturday with the TEW Distraction series. It's the go home show for SmackDown. Joseph does not remember any of this at all. Judgment Day will be next week, so the go home show for SmackDown for Judgment Day is this Saturday, 11 o'clock premiering. And we'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully, maybe, with a movie review, and then we'll be back next week as well. Thanks, everybody.